Hey everyone, my name is David Dunbar, or the Theme Park Evangelist. So, I am finally getting around to talking about my trip to North Carolina and the trip back from North Carolina, for that matter. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Um, I figured I would just do like a review of sorts, if that makes any sense, with what little energy I do have, as my energy is finally starting to deplete, as it's almost 11 o'clock at night. But anyhow, so basically we left early Thursday morning for North Carolina, and she was originally supposed to be picking me up by like 7 in the morning, and she got to me about 15-20 minutes late, which was, fine. And I was like, well, I kind of wish you had, told me you're gonna be a little later, so I could have slept a little longer. Oh, I want to make sure you were up on time because I know you tend to procrastinate, and I'm thinking to myself, not in this circumstance. I'm not going to, because I knew how important it was for her to get up early, or for me to get up early and make sure we were there on time and make sure she saw her mother. So I was like, okay, I mean, whatever. So we stopped at Beans on the way down, which is a uh, restaurant down in Dry Ridge, Kentucky to be specific. And we went inside briefly, and she ordered herself breakfast, and I ordered myself some breakfast. And I was wanting a chocolate milk, but of course they don't have any chocolate milk. And I was like, oh, come on, because, we have been passing some cows, and I started getting the cravings for some chocolate milk. And, of course, I was like, I might as well just get some, regular milk. And then, I went and used the restroom, came back out to the car, and, Katie's taking her time eating. And I was like, well, I might as well just go ahead and go back inside and use the restroom, while Katie's, taking her time. And, we kept going on. Finally, I decided I was going to try to take a nap. And, I kept, waking up off and on. And we eventually stopped at Buc-ee's. And Katie's telling me, make sure you keep the YouTubing down to a minimum while we're in Buc-ee's. And I'm like, oh, don't worry, I'll be quick about it. And I hate to say it, Thursday it started to rain. It was horrible. It was not fun. And we got to Buc-ee's, and I parked underneath the gas pumps, and first I let Katie out, and then I went and parked under the gas pumps, and I started filling up the car, and went and parked the car closer to where the ice was, because Katie had mentioned she needed ice, and I met her inside, and I went and used the restroom. I decided I'll start YouTubing afterwards, because I always like to, whenever we do a road trip south, I always like to start my YouTube videos at Buc-ee's, because of the fact that Bucky's is such a popular place, and Bucky's is always so busy that I feel like I can get away with like YouTubing in there, if that makes any sense. I've already done multiple YouTube videos in Bucky's already. It's incredible how many I've done. Let's see here. The trip down to Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge. That was my very first one. So the one last July. Of course, well, actually, that was not my very first one. The very first time I went to Bucky's. That was the very first one. Then, of course, the trip down to Gallenberg and Pigeon Forge with Katie, Elon, Ellie. That was another one. And then, of course, there was another time that I had gone to Bucky's and I may or may not have been YouTubing. And that was just a spontaneous trip that me and Katie and Ellie had made, and that was the time that we had gone to the Kentucky Horse Park, and I'm pretty sure I was YouTubing that day at Bucky's. And then, of course, there was also the time that I went down to Cosby, Tennessee for whatever you call it, Christmas, and then I YouTubed in Bucky's that time, and then last but not least, I YouTubed on the way down to Fremont, North Carolina, and there was also the time that or then of course, coming back, I YouTubed then too. Give me a minute while I pause this and talk to some friends for a minute. Hold on. So anyway, we kept going from there, from Bucky's down to Gallenberg Pigeon Forge, and the original plan was for us to stop at that Bucky's, and I believe I was kind of sleeping off and on. I don't quite remember who drove when, because that part is a blur to me, but I do remember Katie was driving at the time when we were going past the Bucky's, and then I remember now, I had fallen asleep, but I wasn't in a deep sleep because, excuse me, I remember she had taken back over the wheel at a gas station, and then she woke me up enough just so I could see the Bucky's, and I happened to wake up and I YouTubed it, and I literally went all over again until we got to North Carolina, and by that point I was in a deep sleep. I'm not even kidding. And I literally have woke up just as we had come up to the sign that said "Welcome to North Carolina," and I asked very nicely, "Hey, can we stop at the Welcome Center?" Because I really wanted to see it. So that's when I started YouTubing again, and I did a little bit more YouTubing as we were coming into the state. So that was really neat, and a little bit more after the Welcome Center, and then it was pretty much just another 6-hour drive. It was awful. Just getting into, just getting from western North Carolina all the way to eastern North Carolina where her parents live. And by the time we got to her parents' house, I was like ready to just go. Like, I literally was so out of it. Because I pretty much drove the majority of the state that, like, I wanted to fall asleep right on the floor. Especially when we were at the Chicks, because it was so warm in the house when we got there. I just wanted to fall asleep on the floor. I don't know what it was. And finally, eventually I did go to sleep. And I didn't sleep great on the very first night because, it's kind of weird just waking up in a different house and then realizing, well, this feels like home, but it's not. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. This is my girlfriend's house. That kind of thing. So I pretty much was like, well, I guess I'll just wake up a little earlier than I anticipated, and I went and hung out with my future father-in-law or father-in-law, whatever you want to say, and we just kind of sat around and talked, or I sat around and talked to him, and while he got breakfast ready, and eventually Katie woke up, and then eventually her mom woke up, and Katie and I decided, well, let's go for a walk. So we walked around her block, and we came back, and she had this hiking camping friend that literally messaged her and had decided she was going to arrange for the hike that we were supposed to do at 3 p.m. to be moved to like first thing that morning. So Katie's like stressing out, like, hurry up, let's get going. So I managed to convince them to bring breakfast with us. So we brought breakfast with us, and we drove about half an hour out of our way to go to this place called Cliffs on the Noose, and we found their camping site, and they had these dogs with them, so we brought the dogs with us, all the dogs, including Katie's dog, and we went on this 2 mile hike, and on top of that, Katie and I had already walked an additional mile, so in just one morning, we literally walked 3 miles, and we get back to, Katie's house later, and, Katie and I are ready to go eat lunch now, and her dad was like, well, why don't we wait till your mother gets home, Katie, and Katie wasn't happy about it, but we were like, I was like, oh, why not, and, that kind of thing, and, I decided, well, I'm going to take this opportunity to go shower now, so I went and showered and all that, and, then afterwards, or shortly after her mom got home, and we left a little later, and we went to this barbecue place not too far from their place called, oh my word, what was it called again? Sorry, it's just my brain, it's getting tired, so I'm not thinking like I used to. Parker's, that's right, it's called Parker's Barbecue. So there was all these young men about my age, my height, my brother's age, my brother's height, and they took our order. They brought us some appetizers within like 2 to 5 minutes, and then they brought us our orders like literally right as I was finishing up the appetizer, which I didn't eat much of it, and I didn't expect them to bring 2 plates of it. I was like, wow, and I took a picture of it and I put it on my Facebook page if you're interested in looking at it. And I literally inhaled all of my food. I was so hungry. I was just trying to be polite and not eat their appetizers, even though they got literally plenty for everybody. I was kind of feeling awkward at the table because there was a little personal incident that had happened that morning, and I was still upset about it. But that's not something I want to talk about on YouTube, but it involved, unfortunately, me and him. So eventually we got back to the house, and we didn't really do much the remainder of the day, but however, though, I do remember I did go to bed early, and I did manage to do some of my training for Answers in Genesis that night, and then I finished it up in the morning, and then I eventually got up, and I don't remember eating that morning, but I do remember Katie saying, well, don't worry so much about food, I'm going to take you out for lunch, and her dad's like freaking out because we're having a birthday party for Katie that evening, which I'm not going to talk about that part because that's a personal thing. So after the stress about like when we're going to start cleaning, finally Katie and I managed to convince her parents to let us take one of the cars out to go get her mom cement blocks for her chickens, which I don't really want to get into that because it's kind of hard to explain anyway. It's kind of personal. So Katie first took me to this place called Aggie's Pizza and Sub, and we waited literally 15 minutes before finally they gave us our food. It's not that the food took forever, as they kept having issues getting the debit card to work. But finally they did get to work, and They literally got us the food like 2 minutes later, and I took a picture of that and put it on my Facebook page. I was starving at this point, so I inhaled that within 10 minutes, believe it or not. So then we drove out to Wilson. We went to Lowe's and we got the cement blocks, and I got introduced to Katie's friend. And then we came back and kept helping with cleaning, and then we had the birthday party that evening, which was incredible. And then, that night was kind of just quiet. I got to sit around and talk, and I helped them clean the dishes, and that was just my decision. So the next morning, we got up, somewhat early, not too early, and we got ready for church, and we all piled up together in one car, and we drove out back to Wilson again. We went to their church, and I got to attend their church all morning. Then I got to be introduced to all her church friends. And then I got to go try out their coffee, which was really, really good. I was like, wow. I got to see what this was like. And then we tried going to Pizza Inn. Unfortunately, they were closed for Easter, so that was disappointing, which is really disappointing because of the fact that Katie turned 29 on Easter Sunday. Well, Easter Sunday just happened to fall on her birthday this year. That doesn't mean that her birthday always falls on Easter Sunday. So her dad was like, "Well, where else do you want to eat at?" So we strongly considered the Mexican restaurant that she really likes. It's called San Jose. So we went over to San Jose, and I kept, munching on chips, and then eventually they brought out my quesadilla. And I took a picture of that and I put it on my Facebook page if you're interested in checking it out. And we had to embarrass Katie because it's her birthday. So I took a video and I sent her mother. So unfortunately, it is private. I did not post it on my Facebook page out of politeness and concern for her and courtesy. And it was hilarious and cute seeing Katie getting embarrassed wearing this stupid hat that she did not want to wear. And then eventually we went back to her house, and she got the grass cut, and we got some other stuff done. Then we both were tired, so we decided to take a nap. And then she took me to Goldsboro, where Walmart she used to work at, a Walmart neighborhood market, and she took me around the store, and she introduced me to some of her former coworkers, and we got breakfast for the next morning. Then we went back to her place, and we stayed for a little bit, but not too much longer. Went to bed, relatively early. The next day was incredible. So the next morning, I got up at 6:45 a.m., and let me tell you, that's early. Very early. And Katie woke up about 15 minutes later, but I immediately got up and got the tater tots ready, and Katie got those in the oven. And I tried cooking myself one of those sausage McMuffins or whatever. I bought a 4-pack and I only ate one, and I left the rest for her dad. And I was like, it's whatever. It was for a good cause, that kind of thing. And I learned the hard way, without destroying anything, that her parents pretty much only buy the China plates, the plates that are not microwavable, safe whatsoever. And I'm trying to figure out why this microwave is shooting at sparks all over the place. And I mean, I never started a fire, never destroyed the microwave, so that was a huge blessing. And I still felt like I could have ate more, but I was I knew we were in a hurry. And eventually, we were just about to head out the door. I'm like, oh shoot, I haven't brushed my teeth yet. So I ran in, brushed my teeth, and then we jumped in the car and we drove about 2 hours east. We finally got up to the Outer Banks, and that's actually around the time I started my YouTube video. We started out at an aquarium called Pinole Shores. It was so small, it only cost $12 a person. Her dad being a senior, it cost a little less. So we literally spent a couple of hours in there at least. But this was a really neat aquarium because part of it actually went outside. So that's why there was a part of it that actually went outside, and I thought that was really, really neat how that was done. And excuse me, when we got done with there, they were like, "Oh, let's take David over to this place called Fort Macon." So I joked around about it being called Fort Bacon. So we drove further up the road, and we went to this really cool old fort. And Katie and I played around a little bit, and it was kind of cold that day. If my sweats hadn't been so muddy, I probably would have worn them, but that's only a probably. I'm not a huge fan about wearing sweats to the beach, I'll be honest. That's why I wore shorts. But I also didn't have any flip flops with me, so I could just pull them off. Yeah, I mean, I could have left my socks and sneakers in the car, but I didn't really want to walk up and down the entire beach without socks and shoes on, because I knew there was going to be a lot of sharp things in the sand, and I didn't really want to hurt my feet because I have fragile feet like Katie does. I just didn't want to admit it in front of her father. That's the best way to put it. Now, Katie, I would not mind eventually telling her. I should be honest with you. I'm not a huge fan about walking in the sand barefoot for a long period of time because I have I have sensitive feet. I shouldn't say fragile feet. I have sensitive feet, just like you do. I just don't always like to admit it. But anyway, we walked up and we went over to Fort Macon. We spent some time there. Eventually, we got really hungry, so they were like, "Oh, we want to take David over to this place called the Sanitary Fish Market and Restaurant, which has been around since the late 1930s." As cool as it is, so many different celebrities have been there. So we got over there. Well, we tried. Oh, I called and I'm like, "Hey, do you guys close at 3 or 8? Because Google's told me something different." They're like, "We close at 7:30." Click, and I was like, okay, that kind of thing. But I got away with YouTubing there, so that was really neat. We had the sweetest waitress. Her name was Penny. She was an older lady, very southern, very hospitable, and she took excellent care of us. She went above and beyond. Katie said I was very impressed, and he tipped her very well, and that's as much as I'm going to say about that. I got this shrimp fettuccine alfredo, and I did take a picture of it. I did post it on my Facebook page along with several other pictures. I would say of all the restaurants I went to on this trip, the one in the Outer Banks was by far my favorite. Hands down. Like, no questions asked. I would definitely go back there again. And we were there about an hour, and I was, getting tired by this point, so I'm going to try some of the fresh brew coffee. It was good. I really enjoyed it, No, the one thing I definitely noticed about Katie during the entire trip, despite her father's strong dislike of Pepsi, she continued to drink her normal amount of Pepsi in front of him every single day. Now, I did sit down and explain to her, my parents, they brought me up to be polite and respectful. Doesn't matter who I'm around. And, sometimes that's frustrating because, sometimes I don't want to care, but sometimes I don't have a choice but to care. And considering this is, going to be somebody I have to get, strong approval from, and my parents are not going to let me take, or are not going to take no for an answer. Like, say, for example, I'm drinking Pepsi around this guy every single day and I'm getting him upset. Who's going to get in trouble? And Katie knows that now. Like, Katie understands that my parents are not going to take no for an answer. I have to do what they say. And, she doesn't always like that. It's like, Katie, if, you want to be like that, that's fine. Like, if you want to get in trouble with your parents, that's on you. My parents really can't say anything, but unfortunately for me, I don't have a choice. I have to do what my parents say. So I have to act a certain way around your parents, unfortunately, because my parents said so. So, it is what it is, and eventually I will, get off on my own again and maybe I can, if I want to, drink Pepsi in front of my father-in-law all I want, then that's fine. But also, as I've told Katie before, I don't drink a whole lot of Pepsi these days. And I've also told Katie before too, I've been a coffee person since I was 11 years old, so almost 19 years now. I remember the very first time I had a coffee, and I was like, wow, this stuff is so good. No, Katie just doesn't like coffee. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. And that's why she drinks Pepsi. She actually used to be a Coke person. But Coke has something in it that she's allergic to, like severely allergic to. And that's why she can't drink it. So she drinks Pepsi. Because she can drink it because it does not contain anything she's allergic to. That's what I'm trying to get at. I get it. I respect that. But anyway, after we got done at the restaurant, we went down to the beach, right? And like I mentioned, I intentionally kept my socks and shoes on because I have sensitive feet too. Katie put on her flip flops. Now, Katie cannot stand walking on certain surfaces without flip flops on. And I also learned from her that she cannot stand wearing flip flops on the sand. So I saw she had been carrying her flip flops for quite some time. And I felt bad. And, out of kindness and respect and concern, I was like, hey, can I carry this for you? Are you sure you don't have to? Yeah, sure, why not? I don't mind. And that unfortunately caused another argument between me and my father-in-law, so that got me really upset too, and that was the reason why I end up ending my vlog that day so abruptly. So it is what it is. But it was so nice. I mean, by the time I got done, I was so dehydrated. I'm not even kidding. But the next morning was nice. Still haven't gotten any of the pictures from the coffee shop yet, but let's just quickly go over what happened Tuesday morning. So, we got up early. I mean, after, we got back late and packed up everything. So, the next morning we got out what we didn't need in the car, and we put everything away that we did want in the car. And we did our buys. I did some quick family photos. We chose the one we wanted the best. And I'm a really good photo editor, so I went ahead and edited it, and I sent it back. And we went back to Wilson again, just Katie and I, and we met with her friend Judy. And we sat and had some coffee with her for a little bit. Now, Katie just had hot chocolate. She doesn't drink coffee, as we all know. And we just continued on our way from there. Katie first took me to her Target so I could see it. And she used a Christmas present for my parents. And we stopped briefly at a Pizza Inn in Selma, North Carolina. And then we just basically took turns driving all the way back to Kentucky. But it was just so weird. So we went through upper North Carolina, into Virginia, through Bristol, which is where the Bristol Motor Speedway is, which of course I was passed out at the time. Not like in the sense I was dead asleep, and is what I'm trying to say. Because I was so out of it that day. Because, we had been out all day the day before. And Katie woke me up in Tennessee, and then we stayed in Tennessee for a little bit, and then we went back into Virginia again, and it zigzagged along the side road for a little while, and then somehow we landed back in Tennessee at the beginning of the Cumberland Gap, and we went through this tunnel, and actually, well, I remember at one point we had gone back into Virginia, and then we got back into Tennessee. Yeah, that's right. We went back in, and to Virginia one last time. Then we went back into Tennessee. That's when we entered the Cumberland Gap for a little bit. Went through this tunnel that took us through the Cumberland Gap, and then we went into Kentucky, and then we went down some side roads or up some side roads. Eventually, that connected with I-75, and we went whoop. And then eventually we found the Buc-ee's where I ended the vlog, and then I just continued on until I got here to my parents' house. I dropped myself off, said bye to Katie, and then I shortly went to bed. I only got 6 hours of sleep, went back to work the next day, and I worked again today, and I've already worked 17 hours in just 2 days. So, yeah, that's pretty much been like the past 2 days. And of course, just to remind everybody, I am going to be vlogging the opening day weekend of Kings Island this weekend, which they open on Saturday. I'm working 8:30 to 5 that day. And also, super excited to announce this. Me, Katie, and Jonathan, or me, Jonathan, and Katie, however you want to say it, are officially, Jonathan's my brother, by the way, are officially leaving for Central Florida, which will include me more than likely, Lord willing, hopefully, going on Tron Sunday, July 16th through Monday, July 24th of this year. So I will be officially taking Katie to see where I grew up, since she took me to see where she grew up. So it's now my turn. So we've got, let's see here, 3 months, or 3 months, 3 days left. 3 months, 2 more days left, really, before we officially leave for Central Florida. So I went ahead and did this big announcement so I can let everybody know down there, so we can start planning and making arrangements, sleeping arrangements, blah blah blah. Now it's just a matter of contacting family and friends and trying to figure out like when we can do things like meet and like lunch, dinner, stuff like that, and then try to figure out like where everybody can stay, preferably if Jonathan stayed with Trevor, his close friend down Winter Haven, and then I stuck Katie and I with some of my close friends, Christian close friends in Lake Wales. I put her in one bedroom and I put myself in another bedroom. Because, Katie and I are not married yet, so we don't want to sleep in the same bedroom. I know some people are, oh yeah, it's not a problem, but to us it is, because we're not married yet. So, as much as we would love to stay with family, I mean, Jonathan, I don't really care about him doing that, but as far as Katie and I are concerned, because the Vergaras have that's my close friends in Lake Wales, but since they have so much more room, it might be, and since they're close friends of mine, it might be better to stick Katie and I in that house. And because it's on a farm and that's what she's accustomed to, I feel better about having the two of us stay there. And on top of that, I don't want to stick Katie off in a house that she's not familiar with without me being around. So anyway, as far as official details about the trip to Central Florida, make sure you watch my YouTube channel every single week, every single month until we get to July, because you never know when I'm going to have like an update on the Central Florida trip. But I can tell that my brain is starting to shut down, so I will see you guys in the next vlog, which will more than likely be Sunday. And it sounds like Kylie, my good friend, her boyfriend JJ, and Lord willing Abby will be joining me Sunday afternoon. I just hope they're okay with me YouTubing. And I will see you guys then. And always remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Have a great night. Peace out.